Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today, since I missed filming one of these back for the month of January, I'll be combining my what I watched in January and February video, which kind of works out because in the month of February, I actually didn't watch too much. I was trying to focus on reading one manga per day, that I really didn't watch too much in February, so I think it kind of works out. But I do have a good chunk of stuff to show you guys because in January, I did actually watch quite a bit. So yeah, let's go ahead and jump in with Dragon Ball Super Broly. So I watched this bad boy on the 1st of January. This is how I started my year off. We went to a friend's house. Unfortunately, I didn't watch my Blu-ray, so it wasn't in the best quality. We actually watched it. He had it downloaded. I guess he downloaded it somewhere and we were just streaming it to one of his TVs. But man, even watching it that way, this film had probably the best animation ever in Dragon Ball. The fight between Goku, Vegeta, and Broly was spectacular here. The animation was top notch. Everything was perfect here. I think it's actually one of my favorite Dragon Ball Z fights, to be honest. Definitely gonna be watching this one in the years to come. I still actually need to show it to my wife. So yeah, another thing that I really liked about this one was actually the soundtrack. The soundtrack was also really nice. I don't know what they were doing, but they were sort of like saying their names in the background as they were fighting, and for some reason it really worked. So like when they fused together, Vegeta and Goku, there was just music in the background chanting their name, and it was pretty awesome. If I can find a clip of that audio, I'll play it here for you guys while I'm showing you guys this Blu-ray edition, which is also really nice. I don't know if I've ever showed it to you guys, which is why I'm kind of pulling everything out and showing it to you. This disc right here is pretty awesome. Broly is, even though I haven't really watched too much of Broly, I think I've only seen like one movie before and this movie now. He's one of my favorite characters. I just think he looks really awesome, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people feel the same way. So yeah, I won't say too much about this film because if you haven't seen it, I would definitely suggest watching it. It does go a little bit into the background of Broly, which was pretty interesting. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that. It was pretty nice seeing the backstory of Broly and what was happening with him and his father and everything with Planet Vegeta, I think. I don't remember what the planet was called, but yeah, pretty cool stuff. And then the fight, as I've mentioned, was awesome. And overall, I ended up giving this movie an 8 out of 10. So if you guys haven't seen it, which I'm pretty sure most people that watch anime have seen it, I was probably one of the last ones to watch it. So yeah, it was good stuff, and it actually also made me want to go back and watch Dragon Ball Super, which I did end up watching in February, so we'll talk about that later. But yeah, let's move on to my next watch. Alright, and then next up in January, this Resident Evil 4K box set was released in January, and I ended up watching all of these. I was actually kind of excited because I hadn't seen these in the longest time, at least the first three. I only remember seeing the first three growing up, but I remember enjoying them growing up, and this time around, I gotta say that it wasn't quite as good as I remember them. I still had fun with the first two, so let me show you guys. I think I've already done an unboxing for this, so go check that out, but I'll take out the first two just because those are the only two that I really enjoyed. So we have Resident Evil and Resident Evil Apocalypse. These were still fun to watch. They're definitely rewatchable. I can go back and maybe rewatch these every couple of years or so. But the rest of them were they just progressively got worse and worse. And just to let you guys know, for these two films, I rated Resident Evil a 6.5 and Resident Evil Apocalypse a 6.7. So not high scores, so that just tells you how bad or how much I disliked the rest of them. I believe the lowest score I gave was the final chapter, the last film. I gave that one a 5.6 out of 10. And the only reason it's close to a 6, kind of, is because I rated the picture quality a 7. So the picture quality for these was pretty good. Nothing special. I mean, a 7 isn't great, but for 4K, these are definitely the best versions of these films. And the one that really did surprise me, though, was Resident Evil Retribution, the second to last one. This one had some sequences that looked really good. There were some sequences in like an augmented Japan. They were like in the Shibuya crossing, and just the rain, everything looked really great in this one specifically. So this one actually got rated slightly higher. It got rated an 8 for picture quality, but everything else was bad. For story, it was a 4. Characters, 6, and my personal enjoyment, I just gave the last couple of films a 5. Didn't really enjoy them. So yeah, as you guys can see, I didn't have too much fun rewatching these, and because of that, I actually tried selling these on Mercari, and I actually did end up selling it, but during shipment, my box got a little dent, and I guess the buyer wasn't too happy with that, so he decided to return it, and yeah, it came back to me. So that did kind of suck, because I had sold this one for a profit, but now with this, I don't feel too comfortable selling it anymore, so I think I'm just gonna go ahead and keep it. I do like this box set. I think it looks pretty nice, and I still have those first 2 films, which I do find enjoyable, and maybe at some point I'll feel like watching them again. So yeah, gonna keep this box set. Still pretty nice, so yeah. But let's go ahead and move on to the next watch. Alright, so after watching all of that live action with the Resident Evil franchise, I decided to go back to anime, and I did end up watching SSSS.Gridman, and this was one that I was really looking forward to. It's made by Studio Trigger, which is the same people that are behind some things like Kill la Kill, which I did enjoy. Never finished it. I need to go back and finish it, but I did really enjoy that one. And I just had high expectations for this one. But unfortunately, I was disappointed again with this anime. I don't know if it was because I had really high expectations for it, but something about it just didn't do it for me. It felt really Monster of the Week type. With every episode, they were just kind of dealing with a new what do they call it? Kaijus? Yeah, I think they're called kaijus. And I don't know, after a while it just got repetitive, and I didn't find myself enjoying this one very much, which is really unfortunate, because these 2 girls right here, I think the character design for these characters here, especially Akane and Rika, they definitely look really nice, and they had some figures. They have some figures up for sale on Rightstuf that I think look really nice, and if I would have liked this anime just a little bit more, I probably would have picked them up, but just because I really didn't like this anime, I won't be picking those figures up anymore. But yeah, the character design is really great. However, I didn't think they did a great job with the animation at times. I mean, whenever there was stuff with the kaijus and like the Gridman fighting, those stuff always looked really good. But when it's just 2 characters talking to each other, it felt very like stop motion, but really bad stop motion, where they kind of have their hand in one position and then suddenly it's like all the way down here. And it was kind of taking me out of the anime as well. I didn't really like those, I guess that choice that they went with there. So yeah, because of that, I ended up rating the picture quality a 6. For the story, like I said, I really didn't enjoy it, so I rated that a 4. And my personal enjoyment a 5. So overall, my scores ended up averaging to a 5.5 out of 10. So that was my final score for SSS.Gridman. And I will be trying to get rid of this one. So I will be selling this one on Mercari. Haven't posted it yet. I'm actually trying to sell my sealed ones first. I have a couple of sealed ones. So once I sell those, I will end up posting this one here, which is opened. So it will be slightly cheaper than the ones that I have that are brand new. But the box set is actually really nice. I really do like the box set. This was actually almost in my top 10 box sets of 2020, but it just didn't quite make the cut, and yeah, unfortunately it won't be staying in my collection. So let's move on to the next series. Finally, I ended up watching something really good, and that was Mob Psycho 100. I watched season 1 and season 2 right after because it was just so good, and I really loved the anime so much, and that I had picked up the manga, and I actually read the first volume alongside watching the first season. And I just think in this case, the anime is much more superior to the manga. So I ended up setting off my manga and I'm just gonna continue this story through the anime. And the reason is because this series has some of the best animation that I've ever seen. I love the music whenever Mob Psycho goes into his like 100% mode. That music always hits, and it always hits really good. And yeah, I just love this series just off of the animation and music alone. In some cases, if an anime does that stuff really well, I end up loving it a lot. And that was the case with this one. Because I mean, the story was pretty basic, especially in the first season. We kind of just follow Mob as Reagan is kind of using him. And towards the middle there, it kind of just felt like a case of the week where Mob and Reagan were just helping out local citizens, and he was just using his psychic powers to help them out. But then in the second season, the story did pick up a little bit. We kind of got Mob trying to become his own man, trying to impress the girl that he likes more. He even runs for school president, which is definitely not something that you think he would ever do in season 1. And then there's also some tension between Mob and Reagan, which I really did enjoy all those aspects. So for the story for season 2 was definitely better, and I rated it an 8 here versus a 7 in season 1. But I loved the animation and the soundtrack so much that my final scores for both of these ended up at an 8.1 for season 1 and an 8.4 for season 2. And I can't wait for season 3. This has become one of my new favorite animes that I do anticipate whenever there's a new season now. So yeah, Mob Psycho 100, definitely recommend it if you guys haven't seen it. You won't be disappointed, especially if you just love looking at awesome action. This has some of the best action sequences. So yeah, let's move on to my next watch. Alright, so we're still in January here, but in January I did watch one Criterion. I'm making it a goal for myself to watch at least one Criterion per month. And in January and February I did only watch one per month. So in January I did end up watching Barry Lyndon. This is a film by Stanley Kubrick, and this one was hyped up a little bit for me. I had seen a lot of YouTubers talk about it, Blu-ray collectors, one of them being with Elliot from Boutique Blu-rays. This is actually his favorite film, if I'm remembering correctly. So yeah, I was really hyped for this one, and going into it, I think I was slightly disappointed just because I was so hyped with this one. I still do recognize that it was a great film, but it is a period piece, and I personally am not a huge fan of period pieces movies. I do find some enjoyment from them, and this one was slightly different because we do follow Barry Lyndon, who is a young Irishman, and we kind of follow his rise and fall throughout the movie, because he does kind of rise through power. In some cases it kind of felt like Forrest Gump, where he just kind of kept running into situations that, I don't know, he just got lucky, and he just kept climbing the ranks, and eventually he does finally marry a beautiful, wealthy woman who I did actually really like her. Oh, there's no pictures here, but maybe I'll put an image here. I don't know, something about her, I really liked the way she looked. I thought her hair was pretty awesome. I'll put a picture of her here if you guys, because there's no images on this Blu-ray, but yeah, I don't know. I just always enjoyed watching her on the screen. She was definitely a beautiful woman. And yeah, but then unfortunately, Barry Lyndon does go through some tragedy and he ends up losing everything. So yeah, now that I kind of think about it, I did kind of enjoy it now that I'm thinking back through the scenes. But yeah, talking about some of the scenes here, there definitely was some nice shots in here, and the music also was pretty memorable. So I rated the visuals a 9 out of 10, and then the music an 8 out of 10, and then everything else was a 7 for me. So that averaged this Criterion Blu-ray to a 7.6 out of 10. So yeah, above average, was still good, but I don't know if I'll be keeping this one in my collection. Usually when I watch something, if I don't love it, I will sometimes try and set it off. So this might be one of those. Alright, and then next up, I watched Akira towards the end of January. And this is yet another film that I think was just a little bit hyped up for me, because when I did watch it, I was expecting something completely different, and what I did get, I just kind of thought was average. Although I will say that the picture quality in this one did look really nice, and the art style, just something about how the 2D images were drawn in this film, everything looked really great. And I loved the reds. Anytime there was any reds in the film, they really did pop out. And especially because I did watch this one in 4K. Even though my disc didn't have the HDR, which I still need to go back and ask Funimation to send me my replacement disc, because they are offering replacement discs for whoever didn't get their HDR disc. But even without the HDR, the colors really did pop. So to be honest, I didn't even notice that there was no HDR until after I finished watching it, and I looked online and people were saying that there was no HDR on their discs. That's when I checked, and yeah, mine didn't have it either. But anyways, going back to the film, I feel like I might get some hate, but the only place that I gave this high points was for the picture quality. I thought it looked great. The action sequences were all great as well. But for everything else, even the music, I don't know why. I felt like it was a little off. It didn't work quite well with the anime, in my opinion. I know some other people might think that the music is great, but for the music, story, characters, and just my personal enjoyment, I rated that all of 7, so just average for me, and that averaged out my final score to a 7.4 out of 10. So yeah, that's just my opinion. Hopefully I don't get too much hate, but I just think I was overhyped. I was expecting something super awesome, and I just didn't quite get that. But alright, let's move on to the next film. Alright, so that was it for everything that I watched in January. Now moving into February. Like I mentioned, I didn't watch too much in February because I was focusing more on manga. But I didn't watch anything until that third week in February, when the lights went out in all of Texas. There was a bunch of outages. And yeah, it did affect me. So my power went out, but I did have a laptop, and I was able to play some movies in there, at least until my battery gave out. But my sister-in-law, she picked out a movie. I kind of showed her a bunch of DVDs because unfortunately my laptop doesn't have a Blu-ray player, so we had to watch something that had a DVD. And she ended up picking The Gift, which, I mean, I had kind of been wanting to watch this one for a while. I had only watched this one once before in theaters, and I remember loving this one. This one definitely has a big twist at the end, and yeah, I remember it having a huge impact on me. And even this second time around watching it, I still really enjoyed it. I thought it was really, really interesting and creepy with Joel Edgerton's character here. You kind of feel like he's stalking the family, and he's being a little creepy, but he has a reason for it. And once you figure out what is going on between these two characters here, you understand why Joel Edgerton's character is the way that he is. But yeah, unfortunately, the wife gets caught in the middle of everything, and I'll just let you guys watch the movie to figure out what happens. Definitely suggested if you guys haven't seen it. I don't see too many people talking about it, so if you haven't seen it, let me know in the comments down below, and hopefully this will entice you guys to go and watch it, because it is pretty good. I only have a standard edition here, so nothing too special, and we actually ended up just watching the DVD, so I didn't watch it in the best quality ever. But my rating for this one, watching it for the second time since it came out, was a 7.5 out of 10. Alright, and then finally, after having watched Dragon Ball Super Broly in January 1st, towards the end of February, I decided that I wanted to finish Dragon Ball Super, the original series, because I had never finished it. I watched up to a certain point, and then I just stopped because it was ongoing at the time. And I had been buying these Blu-rays as they were coming out. I just never found the time to sit down and watch them. So I fixed that in February, and I sat down and watched the last 2 parts. And man, these were the best parts of Dragon Ball Super, I think. All of the stuff with Jiren and Goku, that was all great stuff. And these 2 parts covered the last part of the Tournament of Power. And yeah, while I don't think any of the fights here were quite as good as what we saw in Dragon Ball Z Broly, I still definitely got really hyped, especially seeing Goku reach his Ultra Instinct mode, or what do they call it at the end? The Ultimate Autonomous Ultra Instinct or something like that. That was pretty cool stuff. But aside from Goku and Jiren, there was just all of the other characters just had their moments to shine. One of them being Vegeta. He is probably my favorite character in all of Dragon Ball, and I loved that scene where he used his final explosion. That was probably the most memorable scene for me with him, because it did flash back to the first time he used it against the androids, I believe. And it was just fun to watch that he actually didn't end up dying this time around, and that just shows how much he has improved since back then during the Dragon Ball Z times. But yeah, other than that, there's not too much to say. It's just Dragon Ball. It's just your average anime, and for me, I ended up giving these a 7.5 for set 9, and then a 7.6 for part 10. This one just slightly better just because of all that stuff with the autonomous Ultra Instinct, and just that final battle with Jiren and Goku was some great stuff. Probably the best stuff in the Dragon Ball Super series as a whole, and I am glad that I own all of these sets. Alright, so just 2 more things to go, but the second to last thing that I saw in February was the My Hero Academia 2 Heroes movie. I had seen up to season 3 at the time before I watched this one, and so to prepare for season 4, which I was planning to watch in March, which I did, and I will talk about that in my What I Watched in March video. I decided to watch My Hero Academia 2 Heroes, which I believe is a movie that takes place in between season 3 and season 4. So it was a perfect way to watch and catch up and just get reminded about all of the characters and their abilities. And yeah, it was a perfect watch. And yeah, it even helped me kind of get used to the voice acting again, because at first when I heard it, I was just like, man, this voice acting is not the greatest, but I eventually got used to it. And I do watch my anime dubbed whenever I can, because I like to do other stuff in the background sometimes while I'm watching it. And if I'm watching it subbed, I can't quite do that. But anyways, that's besides the point. But yeah, in this film, I did like the initial sequence where you kind of get a flashback to All Might when he was younger, with one of his first sidekicks and his friend, who kind of helped create some of the suits that he wears. So he's kind of like a scientist that helps out All Might and creates some of the items that he uses. So that whole first part was pretty interesting. And after that, though, the movie was just kind of average. The storyline was okay. It was just kind of these villains that are attacking the island that they're in, and they end up finding a way to capture All Might, so he can't help the students out. So it's up to them to kind of save the day and defeat the heroes on their own. But yeah, what really did get me hyped for the 4th season was that last battle between Midoriya, All Might, and the villain in this story. The villain overall wasn't the greatest, but towards the end, that battle sequence was amazing, and the music hit, and it just reminded me why I loved My Hero Academia. And yeah, it did get me hyped for the 4th season. So yeah, overall, I ended up giving this film a 7.5 out of 10. Alright, and then finally, I did procrastinate again, and I watched my Criterion for the month. I think this was even on the last day of February, and the Criterion that I chose for February was Dressed to Kill. This is a Brian De Palma film, and in this film there is a murder of a woman, And then the rest of the film is just the woman psychiatrist, who is played by Michael Caine, which was a big surprise. I actually wasn't expecting to see him in this film. So that was a nice surprise. We got to see him a bit younger. I think this is the youngest that I've ever seen him in any film. But yeah, it's his psychiatrist. It's her psychiatrist, her son, who is pretty smart, and I think he was one of my favorite characters in this film. And then also a prostitute who did witness the murder. So those three characters are trying to figure out who the killer is, while the killer is still out there. And yeah, I actually did enjoy this film. I rated everything an 8. However, the picture quality and the music, those I ended up rating a 6, because the picture quality on this Blu-ray just didn't impress me very much, and there really wasn't any soundtrack in here that was really memorable. So that kind of brought my final score down to a 7.2 out of 10. But I still enjoy this one, and I will be keeping it, as it's one that I think I will revisit sometime in the future at some point. So yeah, Dressed to Kill. If you guys haven't seen it, I do recommend it, at least giving it a watch one time. It is pretty interesting, and the final twist will definitely surprise you, to say the least. All right, so yeah, this was the last thing that I watched in February. All right, so here's a final snapshot of everything that I watched. Definitely think that I watched quite a bit, especially in January. I can't believe I got through all of the Resident Evil. I got through 2 complete anime series, and then I did also watch a Criterion film, which was 3 hours long. I think I actually took 3 days to watch this one. So yeah, a lot of stuff in January, and then just a few things here in February, but I think it's a good amount. And but yeah, let me know what you guys think about everything that I watched this past 2 months. Let me know what you guys watched, and yeah, maybe we can have a discussion down below. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next video.